The MCU, some people love it, some people hate it, but no matter who you are, you cannot disagree. It changed movies forever. On this series, that's what we will be diving into. The entire MCU leading up to Spider Man and Doomsday coming later on this year. We're going to start off with the first three movies in release order: Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2. We'll be diving in the good, the bad, the ugly, and some Easter eggs we may or may not have seen on a first watch through. Spoiler alert, though, this is the first time I watched the Edward Norton Hulk movie, so that was not a reintroduction, but an introduction to that movie for me. We will be starting off here with Iron Man, the movie that started this entire journey through the Infinity Saga. Right off the bat in Iron Man, good. We start with immediate tension in the desert, riding in that Jeep, the big explosion. We kind of know what stakes are at hand immediately going into this movie. To me, that's kind of important. If you don't catch me within the first 15 minutes, you're probably not going to pull me in for the whole movie. That's just kind of how I am. There are some movies that are the exception to that, but for the most part, you got to pull me in quick, just like you do with a song. The story of Happy, like, this is the beginning of his long journey and his long character growth throughout the entire series. It was great to see him, the young Happy, again, kind of start that journey over from scratch, as he's one of my personal favorite characters. Probably the most memorable scene in the entire movie, the Jericho presentation, so to speak, of the Jericho bomb. Just iconic cinematography there. The view of Tony with his hands out, and then just the explosions behind him. That's just a scene that will live in my head forever, and I feel like most people can agree with me. That's probably the most memorable scene of the entire movie. But it was a great scene. They kind of show you following the bomb, everything about it. If you haven't seen it, definitely go see it. Great movie. You will not forget that scene. The ending, again, the way they did it, I thought it was great. It was very, very Tony Stark, in the sense that most heroes, you think, don't want their identity out there. Tony Stark doesn't care. He's like, come at me, bro. He's that cocky, arrogant guy who knows he's the smartest and will not be afraid to tell you that. Then the end credit scene really just saying, hey, Avengers, this is where we're going with it. The Avengers Initiative, kind of planting that seed for the rest of the MCU going forward. My hot take, though, like, people might hate me for this, but I'm going to die on this hill. Iron Man is not a superhero, guys. Hate to break it to you. Not a superhero. Just like Batman, not a superhero. Just a rich guy who's got a really good brain and a lot of money. So, come at me if you will. I will die on that hill that Iron Man is not a superhero. Let me know in the comments what your opinion is on that. You're not going to change mine, but I'm just curious what you guys think. So moving on to the bad. Just the fact that they somehow had blueprints down there on how to build this suit. Not really sure. I mean, they kind of speed through, I'm sure, that timeline. It's probably a longer period of time than I'm realizing, but still, that's a very, very complex suit to just suddenly be able to build with little to no materials. Like, where did all that steel come from? I mean, I'm sure they were giving him materials for the bomb, but I guess he was asking for certain stuff, so it's just kind of like, you would think they'd be a little bit smarter and be like, hey, let me see what you're building. If you're not paying attention, like, yeah, you got him captive, but who's to say he's not? Why are you not tracking him? That's more what it is. Why are the bad guys not paying attention to what he's building? Got to be a little bit smarter there if you're going to be the villain. kind of bad. Also, kind of the ugly in this movie. So the ugly, I'm gonna kind of take that as either a really bad scene or just something that doesn't make really any sense. And these two kind of fit both of those. Suddenly he got flamethrowers on the suit out of nowhere. I'm not sure where he got the fuel for that. It just suddenly was able to shoot fire out of the Mark 1. So that was a little interesting, and not really sure how that really makes sense. But hey, suspend our disbelief for a couple hours. That's the point of these movies. And then he had just that one glass of bourbon in the beginning of the movie. You don't see him drink anything else for like the next probably 30 minutes in the movie, 40 minutes. Doesn't drink anything else, and he's just moseying on through the desert. Doesn't make sense to me there in the sense that he should be struggling, not just, I don't feel like he was struggling enough in my opinion. But hey, again, suspend our disbelief. That's what we do with these movies. I did not realize or notice the 10 Rings reference or the shield mention early on, but when I first saw this movie, I don't think we even knew an MCU was coming until we all saw that end credit scene. I think we went into this thinking, oh, we might get an Iron Man trilogy at the most. So that was cool knowing we were building to a bigger universe with that end credit scene and all of that good stuff. My overall grade on this would be a 7.0. Great movie. I know where the MCU gets to and where my 10.0 movies are. It's not quite there. It's great, but it's not quite the level I know we're going to get to come phase 3 and 4 and where this all amounts to. So 7.0 for me. Let me know in the comments what your grade was, what your favorite parts. Give me your good, your bad, your ugly. And then we'll continue these debates throughout the whole series. Second movie up is The Incredible Hulk, starring Edward Norton, before he was recast. The good, Edward Norton. Edward Norton is my favorite actor, makes everything he's in good. I don't think I've ever seen a bad Edward Norton film. So that just automatically checks that box off for me. There were some funny moments. When he says, you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry instead of angry, because he's trying to speak Portuguese, messes that up. That was actually quite funny. Because all the people are looking at him like, what do you mean when you're hungry? We get our first mention of Captain America and another SHIELD reference as well. So still building that overarching universe, which is really what these first 3 movies did and did very well. So that's definitely a check off in my book there. Keep this universe building. Now on to the bad. I had a couple things we didn't really get. We didn't really get an origin story for him. He is already the Hulk when you start the movie. So when you start the movie, it says X amount of days since last incident. That obviously means he's already become the Hulk. He's hiding out. He's trying to keep himself calm. All of that good stuff. Would have been nice to kind of... We do eventually... we do eventually get to those... to that story, to those moments. Just took a little longer than I would have liked. Also, Abomination, we didn't get him till way too late in the movie. A lot of the movie was him just running from the feds, which I guess not bad, but it could have been a little more exciting if we knew they were trying to build Abomination earlier, just to kind of get some build up to that. And then we get no explanation at the end of the movie. Where is Abomination going? Did we send him to the raft? Did he die? What happened to him? Little disappointing we didn't get any sort of explanation on that. We didn't really get an end credit scene, but we did get an extra scene at the end of the movie, which is, again, helping build the core Avengers, trying to get Hulk into buy in on the Avengers at that point. And then our ugly. The only ugly thing I could say about that movie was probably Abomination, because he was. That was an abomination, pun intended. Maybe the pun was intended. Maybe that's why they did it that way. Probably is. Also, CGI just wasn't as good as it is now back then. So you gotta I give it a little bit of a break in that sense. Overall, pretty decent movie. Not as good as Iron Man, but still pretty good. I give that one a 6.5. 6.5 out of 10. Not quite as good as Iron Man. Not terrible. There's definitely movies below this on the list for sure. Which we'll get into some of those in the next few episodes probably. And then our third movie, Iron Man 2. The continuation, the next part in that Iron Man trilogy. We start off with Stark Expo, really awesome scene. Really just fun, kind of good start to the movie. And then we learn that Tony has an intellectual match, somebody that is just as smart as him, knows how to do all the same stuff as him. And he is working with Hammer, who we'll get into in a little bit there. So they're building they were trying to build a suit, but turns into a big army. Basically using the same tech that Tony Stark uses for the Iron Man suit. Little funny reference, he uses the prototype for Captain America's shield to level out his equipment in the lab. That was kind of funny, but really good pacing with the movie. A lot of ups and downs, and it definitely kept me pulled in the whole movie for sure. The bad was Hammer, just a really boring villain. That was kind of the only big thing I had. Was just, he wasn't that exciting of a villain. He's just a rich guy who thinks he can get what he wants with his money, and usually that's the case. But there was nothing distinct about him, nothing made him stick out and made him different from just a normal old bad guy, I guess. So that'd be the big bad of the movie. And then this could go either way with some people, because it is used in just about every team-up movie. Is that one scene where the camera spins around everybody and you're seeing them all fighting bad guys, and we did get that first one, which looked really cool. And I mean, it's as the first one, I feel like you can't really put that in a bad, but it is overall kind of overused, you could say, in the MCU. Can't say it really had anything ugly. There's nothing really ugly about this movie in terms of really bad. Tony Stark was still Tony Stark, and that's what makes those Iron Man movies as good as they are. Robert Downey Jr. really just pulls that persona out. Does it very well. I did not notice the first time I watched it. Elon Musk is actually in the movie. The reference, I didn't even notice it. Never heard because they say his name, and I just didn't even catch that the first time I watched it. And then the robot heads for the army, definitely shaped like a clanker from Star Wars. So that was kind of a nice little cool reference there. Basically built the same way. And my overall grade on that would be 8.0. Better than the first one. Really good story. Entertaining through the whole thing. And still building more towards Avengers, which we should be getting to, I think, in 2 or 3 movies. That should be in the next episode. But yeah, it was very, very good. I see why the Iron Man movies made billions in the theaters. They are that good. Highly recommend the 2 Iron Man movies. Hulk, if you want to go through the whole thing, cool. I don't think it's crucial to the overall MCU story, just because he was recast. So I think they're just kind of trying to ignore that whole story and not have to worry about tying it in. So 8.0 for me on that one. Again, guys, let me know in the comments your grades, what your good, bad, and ugly were on the movie. Thank you guys for joining. As always, we shenan once, we will shenan again, and we'll catch you guys next time.